It's 4th of July weekend and the 250th anniversary of America declaring our independence from Britain. And we are celebrating freedom, right? And so it made me think, what does freedom actually mean? And what is it that we're trying to be free from, especially in today's sort of current world and reality? Because, generally speaking, freedom, at least the way we celebrate it, tends to be fireworks, American flags, and grilling hot dogs and burgers. But, you know, that's not really the conversation around freedom. And so, you know, I got to think, what kind of freedoms even are there, right? We usually think about freedom in this sort of political concept: freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom to vote. And it's not to take away from those, but I think there's also a lot of other freedoms that are really important, especially in sort of modern life, right? Freedom of time. How do we spend our time? What do we do? Freedom of identity, to be who you are and different. Shed yourself of the identity. Don't say, I'm always late. Don't say, I'm a bad texter. Don't say, I don't finish the things I start, right? You can free yourself from these identities. Freedom from comparison of how you're doing in life compared to other people, measuring yourself or your value to someone else. Freedom of choice, freedom to say no, freedom to choose something, change your mind. And the freedom from our own narrative, right? Of like, stop believing this narrative that we've told ourselves. And like, that's a freedom. I would also say freedom from judgment, right? Judging ourselves. Most of us sort of think about freedom of speech and these sort of freedoms a lot, but I think these are maybe the more important freedoms as we are currently sort of navigating our own internal battles. And so I'm curious, what sort of freedom do you want to practice more of? What would that look like? And similarly, I was like, what does it mean to be patriotic besides being Mel Gibson charging with an American flag, or Steph Curry saying night night to the French folks at the Olympics a few years ago? Because I do think that that was some of the most patriotic I've ever felt. But I think the deeper version of patriotism is more active, right? It's being engaged in this potential. I feel like right now, sort of, patriotism has become this almost like right-wing ideal, but it is a holistic identity that doesn't mean blind loyalty to country. It means engaged loyalty, right? So I think it's important to say, like, how have you or haven't you been a patriot lately, and like showing up to engage in the conversations around America and what we're doing in this country? And I think, how can we practice our freedom, right? So first, of course, showing up to the A team. I do think this is you don't have people don't have to be a part of this community, but showing up every 2 weeks on Tuesday, we have these conversations, and I think that's exercising a really cool freedom that you have with your time, energy, and to really prioritize yourself. And then, of course, there's actual advocacy, right? Find your representative. Here, it's linked right here in this document, house.gov representatives. Type your zip code in, and it'll show who your elected officials are, and give them a call and let them know if you think they're doing well, or if there's issues you want them to engage in. You're allowed to do that, and that you have the freedom to do so. I also think being happy in today's world is an act of freedom, and to express joy in a world that, if it bleeds it leads, is like a standard news saying, right? To say that we love negative news. Being happy, I truly believe, is a form of exercising freedom. And this is actually a close to home, literally at my home example that I wanted to share, which is that Norma and I raised this flag in distress. This is an upside down flag. It's an official sign in sort of flag language to say, if the American flag is flown upside down, it is saying a recognition that we are in distress. And I do believe that our nation is in distress. I do believe that, social, from a social level, politically, wealth disparities, we are in distress and we are in need of change. And so this is a form of us advocating. This is Long Beach Boulevard right here, from our house, and also within our freedoms, because we are allowed by our HOA to fly one flag, and it is the American flag. So we are sticking to our HOA rules, and we are doing so in a way that shows protest. So just little things like this, I think ultimately freedom is a muscle, like a lot of things. And it's something you have to use and create and exercise, or else it atrophies, right? And so practicing freedom can look like a lot of different things. Maybe it's just making a decision because you want to, not saying why or anything else, just leaning into, I want to do this, or saying no to something. Maybe it's spending 30 minutes doing something, absolutely nothing, just for you, and enjoying it without guilt, right? Or have the conversation you've avoided. Who are you pushing off? Who are you trapping yourself in your own mind by not texting, not following up with, right? You're imprisoning yourself. Or just rewrite your own definition for success instead of something you've inherited or told you so yourself. Freedom that isn't exercised is just a theory. It's the practice that makes it real. And a couple other sort of thoughts on freedom that I thought were interesting is like what's freedom look like within a relationship? Freedom to be different and still be connected, or what do high achievers accidentally give up in pursuing success, right? Maybe it's freedom of time, freedom of presence, freedom from the need to always be doing more, right? And what does financial freedom actually mean? Like, is it a number in your bank account? Could you live below your means and become more free or experience more financial freedom? I always think there's different ways to find financial freedom. And so, just in closing, right, this 4th of July, you just celebrate the freedoms you've inherited. I understand it may be difficult and, times are hard to sort of celebrate maybe America, but I think that choosing freedom and then leaning into like, what freedoms have I not been using, and where within time, identity, success, whatever it may be, ultimately freedom is not something a country gives you. It's something that you have to choose and you have to lean into. And so I hope that this 4th of July, you're celebrating yourself and the freedoms that you have, and potentially engaging in a conversation with yourself around how you can foster more freedom in your life and what that might look like. So if this resonated with you, and if you want to share some thoughts, always a DM away on Instagram or just leave a comment here below. Thanks so much. Have a great day.